Hey, yo, this is Justin Beasley, and I'd like to thank you for watching Something to Consider. When Cherie and I decided to put together the YouTube channel, Enjoying Your Horse, I knew that I didn't just want to do training content. There was so much more that I had to say and wanted to share with you, the viewer. So we decided to put this together as a way of helping people negotiate the quote horse world. Um, there's so much information out there. And, as the great Pat Pirelli would say, there's a lot of bovine fecal material floating out there. And we wanted to put together something that would maybe help you, the viewer, cut through some of that and maybe give you a different point of view, come at a topic from a little different angle, so on. A lot of what you're going to hear in this is my opinions, the way that I view things. Okay, now I'm going to be the first one to tell you that most people, especially any who've spent time in the horse world, will come across with their opinion as if it is a fact. That is not my intent at all. As a matter of fact, it's one of the things that I want to share with you. So when you're watching these, you're just getting my perspective on something, okay? It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just my perspective. And what I'm hoping to do is approach something from an angle to where maybe you haven't considered it before, because a lot of times, especially when it comes down to specific topics, there are trends on how to view that topic. And as we go along, you'll start seeing what I'm talking about. Um, a lot of times I will approach something from a very different point of view. And so my hope in this is to give you something else to think about, again, something to consider, and then allow you to make up your own mind with having an alternative view. Okay. One of the things that I have always stressed to my daughter is I really don't care what her point of view on a particular topic is, as long as it has been well researched and well thought out, even if it's in direct opposition to however I may feel about a subject. If she were able to bring me a logical approach to a topic that, again, maybe differed from mine completely, I can respect that. And so, what I'm hoping to do is kind of share that same thing with you and, help you to think for yourself when you're negotiating the quote horse world, whether that's how to train, buying horses, how to deal with other horse people, how to conduct yourself around the barn, that sort of thing. So, like I've said about the training videos, my outlook is not the way. It's just a way. Okay. Then once I share that, or any trainer shares their way with you, then it's up to you to discern whether or not you want to follow that train of thought or that training method, whatever. So that's the main thing that I hope to accomplish with something to consider is, again, just giving you an alternative perspective, allowing you to explore that, make up your own mind, and perhaps bring some discernment, okay, into your decision making versus just following the crowd because that's what everybody else is doing, okay? Now, one last thing before I let you go is, I am not the most politically correct person in the world, namely because there is no separating my faith from the way I negotiate the horse world or the business or training or anything like that. And I know that that's not real popular amongst people. You never discuss politics and religion. I personally think that's a cop out. Tells me you're not firm in where you stand. But, if at any time you do not like what I'm saying, feel free to click off that video. There's nothing keeping you there. I hate to say this, but the comments I can care less about. I'm not out to impress anybody anymore. I've impressed those who I wanted to impress in the horse world, and I hate to say this, unless you're one of those people, if you're watching this, you're probably not it. I'm just hoping to share with the community, okay? And I, some people are going to agree with it, some people aren't. So, always feel free to, you know, click that red X up at your top right hand corner if you don't like what you're hearing, okay? Um, I don't know why this is a thing, but I figured to go ahead and put it here. But one of the questions that I often get answered are, who were my influences? Um, I don't know why that matters, because I figure if a person can't watch what I do, they can't hear what I say, and decide for themselves whether or not what I do is worth pursuing or not. And, people are so interested in, who did you work for, who were your influences, blah, blah, blah. I figure if you can't decide on your own without knowing my resume or my pedigree or whatever, however you want to put it, then you're probably not the person that I'm hoping to work with. However, just to get it out of the way, because it seems to be a big thing, my influences are vast. Number one, of course, the great John Lyons. Even to this day, his principles, his philosophy, that was my foundation. That's how I started off as a kid. Everything I do today is based on those, regardless of whether I'm using the same techniques, the same tools, whatever. My training is 90% influenced by Mr. Lyons. Of course, Clinton Anderson, another great horseman, especially in like some of the tool area, and just especially like your philosophy once you're up in the saddle. His trail series that he put out was huge in the way I approach horses. Of course, you've got Buck Brannaman, Pat Pirelli, which you heard me talk about earlier in reference. Ray Hunt, Tom Dorrance, all those guys were people that I didn't know, but something I read or something that I watched really made an impact on me and influenced what I do. Then again, there are some whom I would call traditional horse trainers. Guys like Benny Gatrone, Les Vogt, Bob Avila. Those were my heroes when I was growing up. And they influenced a lot of the things that I do, some of the tack that I used. Of course, I showed horses for a short period of time. And, they were the benchmark, how I wanted my horses to perform. And so, I tried to emulate that. And then there were people that most folks have never even heard of. Old gentleman by the name of Russ Newby. When I was growing up, I didn't ride with him per se, really didn't even know him all that well. But the few times I was around him, he really impacted the way that I viewed horses, how I managed my own thing, and how I approached a lot of topics, as a matter of fact. So you'll be hearing quite a lot of Russ's influence in coming episodes of this. And then, of course, there was also Joe Bruce. Any of you who spent any time in southern Colorado in the mid to late 90s, before that, if you know who Joe Bruce is, you're awesome. Considered one of the living legends of southern Colorado. He was a huge influence on me. Again, I only met the guy a few times, talked with him, on a couple of occasions, watched him ride a bunch, and was really impacted in the way, especially in the way he presented himself to a horse. So, those are my influences. Of course, I've got more, too many to name, but the two biggest were my mom and my dad. My dad was very much of the opinion that, when you're dealing with horses, you're dealing with a sentient, living, breathing animal that had a mind of its own, and you needed to take that into account. My mother, she was just a horse nut. She's the one who gave me the bug. And even though she wasn't a writer, she wasn't a trainer or anything, you know, she had an eye more on the breeding portion of things. She was just a horse lover, and she really taught me what loving horses was really all about. You know, she could care less on whether or not she ever rode or anything like that, but you know, again, treatment of horses, how to approach them, that sort of thing. So a lot of influences, again, too many to count. You know, thank you for bearing with me in this little introduction video. I just felt the need to kind of tell you what these were going to be about. And again, the biggest thing that I hope to bring to the table with these is just giving you an alternative perspective on certain topics, and then allowing you to decide whether or not, you know, what I say carries any merit. Okay, again, I just want to help bring back discernment in this instead of people just blindly following the crowd. All right, so thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and we'll see you next time.